on the Mesh Podcast Network, a monthly conversation about startups and small business with ideas, tools, and advice to operate your business more effectively. On today's show, starting a new business is a huge challenge, and pivoting and restarting a business is an even bigger challenge. On today's episode, we'll talk with inventor and founder of Bootights, Shelby Mason, about her company and the roller coaster rides that she's taken as an entrepreneur. We'll also have our Small Business of the Month feature, where we'll recommend some interesting businesses for you to be checking out. My name is Jeff Newville. I'm your co-host. I'm director of the Manufacturing Solutions Center in Conover, North Carolina. I'm joined by my co-host, Gary Muller, who is Executive Dean of Economic Development and Corporate Education at Catawba Valley Community College in Hickory, North Carolina. How's it going, Gary?
Jeff, it's going great.
Good.
Semester's going well from continuing education as well as curriculum, so we're off to a nice start, and we're almost halfway through, so that's a good thing.
Well, we're here in early March. It sort of almost feels like spring here in beautiful North Carolina. We hope that it's going well wherever you are, and and we're having a good time.
Thank you for your hospitality of you and your team yesterday while I was teaching my class over there. It's a beautiful facility, as well as the new building getting ready to open up in just a little bit of time.
Well, we're very excited about that. And speaking about our facility, we're going to introduce our guest, Shelby Mason. Shelby, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great on this beautiful Friday morning, I guess.
Yeah, Friday morning, and I transitioned there because when the Manufacturing Solutions Center in Conover, North Carolina, opened their current building, Shelby was actually the keynote speaker at that event several years ago. I don't want to date us all, but she was there talking about her product and her brand Bootights, which combines both socks and tights. And Shelby, you have a pretty interesting background in that before you got into the apparel type business, you were a marketing salesperson with Disney, with Warner Brothers, and then you made the leap.
Yeah, I think of myself as kind of an accidental entrepreneur. Really, I was working at Disney and I was selling TV shows for them and traveling a lot. So I was a road warrior and I would be getting on and off planes all week. And I basically found that I was part of my uniform when I was traveling was wearing my suit and my tights and my boots. And mostly when I was traveling was in colder locations. So I'd always wear my boots and my tights. But I always found I needed to layer a separate sock over my tights when I wore my boots. And because my feet would slip and slide because tights are super thin, and I know you're guys and you probably don't fully, understand what it's like to sacrifice comfort for style. But because you do look very stylish today, I will say.
Well, thank you very much.
That shirt and
we don't get that often.
No, I didn't even know how an answer at first.
Yeah. We're always glad this is an audio only podcast. Right. But go ahead.
So it was just kind of a situation I would always deal with. So I would always have to steal my dad's old socks when I went home to visit because my socks I had to layer over my tights were like running socks. So they were ankle socks. So they would slide under my boots, slide under the heel of my boot, and it would be super annoying. And so I need those taller crew sock, whatever that my dad had, the white ones, you guys all know them. And anyway, I was always doing that. And it was always kind of a make-do solution and kind of a pain in the butt because I'd forget the socks. And it was just, heaven forbid, I go through the airport and go through TSA. And this is actually what was the inspiration to the idea. I was in O'Hare going to Fargo, North Dakota. So it was a very cold, I remember exactly where I was going at the time. And I was standing in line at TSA and there was a really good looking guy that was standing beside me and we started to chat and I thought I looked good. I had my suit on and ready to go and went through the little metal detector, took off the boots and I had the white man socks on and it just wasn't a good look. It just wasn't a good look. And so I think my confidence kind of went down the drain at that point.
See, I would think
So
some people would find that a conversation point, like
Yes.
yeah, but I,
yeah, not this
Nice
guy.
combination.
Maybe that's something about him, maybe he didn't have a sense of humor, but so maybe it worked out to my benefit at the end of the day. But yeah, it was more humiliation and embarrassment, and was the impetus to the idea of why don't they have a product out there that combines the comfort and the cushioning and the warmth of a sock to, a tight where women can wear them, which, either stylish or they're either stylish or they're just a utility and you want to cover your legs for warmth. Why don't they put them together? And I found out why, because it's kind of a pain, but but it makes a pretty darn product.
so you came up with this idea, and now I'm at the Manufacturing Solutions Center, and talk to us a little bit about how you went about developing this idea, because I imagine you talked to people, and there was a lot of head scratching and teeth gnashing, just from my experience in various industries, I suspect people looked at you like you're crazy. So,
oh yeah. It didn't help that I didn't know the lingo, so I kept saying woven, and it's knit, and that's like a hosiery 101 thing. You should pretty much know how the product is created, and so I just called up a bunch of mills. I didn't know what I was doing. I knew nothing about manufacturing, nothing about apparel, retail. I never even worked at the Gap. So, I really knew nothing. And so I just started calling people, and I got them to take my call. But once I started to explain it, I didn't really get anywhere. So I started to Google, and this is where I found the Manufacturing Solutions Center. I Googled hosiery terminology because I was turning people off by what I was saying. And sure enough, there is a glossary of hosiery terms in there, and it was the Manufacturing Solutions Center. At the time, it was the Hosiery Tech Center, and that's where I found, for more information, contact. So I did, and the team there was wonderful. They thought my idea was actually not crazy, and they gave me the time of day and helped me with the prototype, and then helped me and pointed me into the right direction to what mill would be the most. Yeah, it would make the most sense for my needs, and we were rocking and rolling after that.
That's cool. So now you were saying that your background, you're working for these entertainment companies, your sales, your marketing. You're probably when it comes to manufacturing, it's like a black hole. But what strengths did you bring into the business? From a marketing, and how did that help you as you're getting up and going?
Actually helped me a lot. At the time, I just felt like I was at a disadvantage because I was in waters that I knew nothing about. So I was but what I realized is what I didn't know was a benefit, because I didn't know that I shouldn't go straight to the top to ask buyers for a meeting. I didn't know what I couldn't do. And so I just kept being persistent. And like, for example, and working for Disney, you're kind of at the marketing of Disney, the branding of Disney. I learned all about that, how to pitch an idea, how to pitch a program, how to pitch a story. I know how to do that. I know how to get in front of, C-suite executives. I wasn't afraid to call, the head of the mill or the head of the buying team or whatever. So that was good. But yeah, that helped me a lot. But I can say, like, for example, my first retailer was Dillard's, and I didn't even know what Dillard's was. I was like, I'm a West Coast gal. I didn't know, and so I ended up going straight to the top and got a meeting and got an order that same day. And I thought, oh, that's how it's supposed to work. And I didn't realize that, usually you sell at trade show, you do trade shows and you sell boutiques first. And I just did it really big. And it was a good and a bad thing. I was good because, hey, I'm off and rolling. It was bad because I wasn't prepared. So I wasn't prepared with my manufacturing. I didn't have an infrastructure, and then we started to get a lot of press, and that's where my background helped. And then I really wasn't prepared when it went on Oprah. So
That's a big deal.
Kind of bad, but you learn.
Well, so in terms of lessons learned there, I mean, I guess building a team is important. I mean, it sounds like for a while you're the team. You're probably wearing lots of hats, and that's always the challenge of distribution. I mean, when sometimes you sound a little bit like the dog that chased the car. You caught the car. What do?
Yeah. That's exactly what happened. And so, in the beginning, I was still working at Disney when this whole thing kind of exploded. It was going to be on Oprah, and when she was still in syndication her last year back in 2011. So I used that and leveraged it with a bunch of the buyers and department stores, saying, hey, this is the next big thing. This is going to be on Oprah. You need it on your floor. And so I did that again, not knowing, the packaging I was designing myself. I didn't know how any graphic design. I had no team in place. So everything I did it looked cheap. My packaging wasn't really professional. I didn't have a full understanding of what I didn't even know what a SKU was. So, but that being said, it was a lot of bumps. My website crashed within 2 seconds of being on Oprah. But what we did get, the fact is the product's really unique and really good. And the people who discovered it want to tell their friends, and they want to share it because there's nothing else out there on the market. And it's just a very niche, very specific solution to a problem. So my business continued, despite the ups and downs. And I'm basically now in 2023, I'm kind of relaunching the brand and moving away from my old distribution strategy, which was department stores and wholesale and doing all the trade shows and trying to make sure that I'm making everybody happy with all my styles and having a new collection every season. And now I'm really focused on my website and online direct to consumer via digital, and those have different challenges. But that's really, the buying behavior has changed so dramatically, especially after COVID, that for me, pivoting in this direction made the most sense for the brand. And for financially, for me, because it's personally funded by me, it's a little bit less expensive to do it this way. And, if you're going to get a smaller percentage of buyers, but it's still a large chunk of your customers are still available, then that's really the way to go for me right now.
Well, we talked a little bit, and it sounds like you've gone through situations where you've had to pivot. COVID is one thing, and I guess maybe changes in the way people dress, and just not being in the office and that sort of thing, but also just in terms of styles and whatnot. And at one point, you sort of took a step back and got into just doing some of the boot sock type things. So how did you sort of recognize when the time was right to pivot and execute on that?
Yeah, that's the thing, I guess, about, entrepreneurship and small business ownership is that you kind of have to roll with the punches. Not everything you can control. We want to control everything. And, but when it comes down to it, you can't control what people are buying and what people are wearing. And so what I found, and this was, 2013-ish, women were starting to wear less dresses. They were starting to wear, and when they were wearing dresses, they weren't wearing hosiery and tights. They were going bare-legged. So there wasn't as much hosiery wearing. And before, hosiery was more of a fashion piece. There was a lot of patterns and colors. And so, and it just kind of stopped that. People would still wear tights, but they would wear them basically as a utility and wear plain black. So it was just kind of a different type of market. And so less people were wearing tights and more people were wearing jeans. But there were still a lot of people wearing boots, and the market that was consistently loving their boots and buying new boots each year and spending a lot of money on their boots and very loyal were the gals in the Western market. And so we were in those Western boots. And what I found in my product, though, was that not only did it make a really incredible hosiery, tight pantyhose, however you want to say it, but it also made a really great boot sock, because we took that same concept of the bottom portion being knit on a sock machine with arch support, cushioning, moisture wicking, ventilation, all that stuff. And then the leg portion still knit on a hosiery machine. So that's super sleek. It has spandex. It doesn't slide down. It hugs your leg. And so it also doesn't add bulk to your boots. And so it ended up to make an incredible boot sock. So then we're like, okay, let's put lace on this. Let's have fun with this. And let's put a little bling and let's do some patterns. And we found that there was nothing like it in the market. And they embraced us with just open armed. And we ended up in Boot Barn and Cavender's and a bunch of others, and doing more of those Western trade shows. And so it was great. We basically took what we do best and we pivoted into a market that was not as fashion trend, specific. And we kind of rode that for a while.
You mentioned trade shows a couple of times, and it sounds like that's probably not in your marketing mix now as much as it might have been back several years ago. But I'm just curious, just because I got to go to some trade shows, you have any hints for having a successful trade show? Anything you can share with people?
I've done so many. Oh my God!
Other than having comfortable shoes, I think that's the one I remember.
Number one is wear comfortable shoes. Yeah. Number one, wear comfortable shoes, and great socks. But yeah, for us, it was the prep work beforehand that really helped us be successful. And also, if you go to the same one over and over again, people start to know where to find you. And so that consistency at the trade shows are really very, I think there's a big benefit to that. But I sent out so many blasts, e-blasts. I got the list from, various, wherever I got my list, and would send out those blasts, and they'd be so annoyed by them. And they would come up there like, oh my God, you keep sending me email. I go, well, you're here, aren't you?
It worked, yeah.
It was a lot of prep, but and then, the trade shows throughout the years, less and less foot traffic would occur at these trade shows. So we also found, and it's different now. This is post-COVID in a different, industry and everything. But yeah, we started to realize that the expense of these trade shows and, having to fly out there, hotels, the whole thing, at one point, it just wasn't worth it. We weren't getting enough back. So, and so that's also another reason why it makes more sense for me to really focus on e-commerce and put all my money and marketing into social ads and influencers and just getting our word out there in that capacity, as opposed to going to those trade shows. But yes, prep and consistency at the trade show. Comfortable shoes and socks.
Comfortable shoes. Okay, gotcha. You've one of the things that you've gone through in your entrepreneurship life is trying to find the right partner and sometimes finding the wrong partner. I mean, what advice can you share as from your experiences when you're trying to partner with somebody? What should people be looking for, and what might be some red flags that should put them in another direction?
I think overall that's been the hardest part for me. Is when I first started with Bootights, I had a lot of options, a lot of people coming knocking on my door saying they wanted to partner, and that would for me was a red flag, because I was so new and I was just afraid, and I didn't want people to steal my idea, and I didn't want to partner too soon, and then before I could grow it as much as I could myself and get as much value out of it myself. So in the very beginning, I had opportunities looking back that probably would have been really great, and I didn't choose for whatever reason. And I think it's because this is the path I'm supposed to learn throughout this process. But the biggest thing is follow your gut. I mean, I had an opportunity to partner with another hosiery company, and at the same time, I had an opportunity to partner with someone out of New York who was very successful in their business, and they were in the apparel business. And I had these checklists of pros and cons. I went through the whole thing. I mean, I didn't just jump on, and I went through it all. And my gut told me to go one direction. I went in the other direction for, other reasons. And I made a mistake. It wasn't a good partnership. They had different goals. They did business very differently. They didn't understand how to grow a brand as opposed to just licensing brands and doing volume. That's what they did. They did volume, and it wasn't about growing brands. And it takes time to grow a brand, especially a lifestyle brand that's that's something unique. So yeah, it is very, really, really hard. And the other thing is just to look for someone who maybe brings something to the table that you don't have. I was great at marketing and sales, and I was, I guess you could say I'm a little bit on the creative side, or I had to be. I developed that. I wanted somebody that had the infrastructure, that had the distribution, that had the ability to kind of just take it to scale and get it going. I didn't want to have to worry about EDI and all that stuff. I wanted someone else to do that. But yeah, that was really hard for me, and I ended up picking the wrong company to partner with. And within the year, Bootights basically was done. Just a lot of bad decisions, and then, not being able to control that part of it. I just felt really helpless. So once we basically ended that partnership, and like I said, it only lasted a year, it was very devastating for me because that was my baby. Mm-hmm. I took I put a lot of money into it. I sacrificed a lot, sacrificed a career that I built really, that I spent a lot, the first part of my life building, and in less than a year, it was gone. So, and that's kind of where then you start to wonder what's your identity. Like, I was always the Bootights gal. Like, now what do I do? And then, long story short, I ended up fighting a legal battle and settling and getting the brand back in my name. And of course, that happened right when COVID hit. So I couldn't access any of my inventory for a while and had to figure out how I was going to do this. And but, honestly, COVID, there was a little bit of a blessing there because it gave me the time to just chill and think about it and plan it out. And so now we're back up, and I'm having a great time.
So you talk about the planning that you were able to do, and I guess one thing, and Gary and I have talked about it some, is always trying to find the right balance between not over planning, and you can probably spend all your time planning. It's never going to be perfect, and when it's time to pull the trigger, and it sounds like you had initial success selling into department stores. Maybe you weren't totally prepared, but you at some point you made that leap. I mean, you have any advice for people in terms of when is it time to stop planning and start doing? Or that's probably, there's not an easy answer to that, but I guess just your perspective on it.
Yeah. I honestly never had that problem. So
You're a doer.
I did it. I just did it. But at some point I think that what's important is to make sure that what your product or your service is something unique. I mean, you want to make sure that you have some sort of a differentiation to your customer. And a lot of people want to go into business for their self or want to be an entrepreneur because it has become almost a buzzword. But if you don't have something to offer that's unique for your customer, then then I would start planning, figuring that out. So I think that's really important. Is just it's not easy being an entrepreneur. I would love to work for someone who paid me and who gave me benefits and told me what to do each day. And I had goals and I knew what to do and I made money and then I was off and then I could go home and have a cocktail and not worry about anything. So that is what I would love at this point, but I don't see it happening. But so I'm just saying that, there's a point where for me, market research was really important, because after I got the market research back and realized that I wasn't the only one with this issue, and that there's other women out there, other people in general who had this problem and would buy the product, then I'm like, let's get it. Let's go. It's now or never. Of course, now was 2009. So,
I think that, just doing that research to me is part of the planning, and that, too often, we probably run into people who make that assumption of, I came up with a unique product, and haven't spent the time to say, hey, is it really unique? Are there people out there that really share this problem? And it sounds like you at least were able to figure that part of it out.
Yeah, I think that's one of the key
I didn't want to
downfalls.
go into this without. This was a lot of work. I mean, I had a great job. I made money, and I lived in LA, and it was a good time. And so I didn't want to put my money into it. I mean, maybe it's just because I don't want to dump a bunch of money into something that nobody wants to buy. And I didn't want to disrupt my career and the other thing is, when you ask people or you do a focus group, make sure it's not your friends and family only, because they're going to tell you go for it. They don't want to squash your dreams. So make sure that you're able to get a big enough focus group of people who don't know you personally. And that's what we did. And that was kind of where I figured, okay, you know what, let's do this.
Well, your current pivot, you said, is really into the e-commerce and going direct to consumer. So that I guess presents new challenges. I mean, what's any advice you have for folks that are focused on the e-commerce platforms?
Yeah, it's probably make sure that you have a website platform that's easy to use. I'm using just my personal, what I use is Shopify, and they make it really easy for business owners to be able to, to put the product up and, that kind of thing. You need to put content out there, and it doesn't have to be perfect, and be authentic and be real and tell your story. Don't be afraid to tell your story, and that's what people connect with. And so I think, I need to get more video out there. I need to, because I'm so good at doing the video side of it, but because we had some technical difficulties today, but yeah, those are things that need to happen. And then the great thing about e-commerce or about social media is that you can really target your market. You can really, really hone in and target. But you got to be consistent. You've got to build, a story, and it doesn't happen overnight like Oprah did, like Macy's did. It takes time to grow. So I do other things beyond that. I go out and I plant seeds, as what I call it. I do like women entrepreneurship luncheons and pop-up shops and other things to get my brand out there, to get out in the world, and also to see what other people are still wearing and figure out, I don't want to be stuck in my office and with my dog at my my desk, all day long and not realize what's going on out there. So but yeah, technology is an incredible thing. I love it and hate it at the same time, but it allows you to reach your customer base relatively easily. But you do have to have a marketing plan. It's not going to just come to you just because you have a website up.
Fair enough. Well, as we sort of wind down a little bit, any other advice that you would offer out there to people that are starting their own business or small business owners?
Yeah, I would kind of go back to that one point, is just make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. Do it because you feel like you have a product and a service that somebody really needs. Don't do it because you don't want to work, for a big corp, or you don't want, the product or the service, that's the hero. That's the key. And then I would also try to surround yourself with good people that can complement you where you might need help.
I think that's good.
Those are great advice for
Well, we appreciate
any
it.
venture.
Right, exactly.
Well, can you hang out for a minute and play our lightning round?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, all right. Well, so this month we're sponsored by Globo Gym. If you need to lose some weight and get in shape, you go to a different gym. But if you're ready to look good, go to Globo Gym. You should check it out on the internet.
Why do you keep looking at me?
You're looking good, Gary. All right. So we have some quick questions for you, Shelby. Some quick answers. Don't overthink it. Okay.
Right.
First one. What is your biggest pet peeve?
When people are in the fast lane driving slow, I can't handle it.
I'm with you. And if they don't use blinkers, that irritates me too.
I'm with you on that one. Yep.
What toppings do you put on your pizza? And more importantly, what is your position on pineapple on pizza?
Oh, interesting. I'm not a pineapple fan. I appreciate those who are, but I like onions, peppers, sausage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good answer. Yeah. Just avoid the pineapple, people. Come on.
Yeah, I just say don't do it.
They don't
Have it
fit
for-
with pizza.
have it
I
for
agree.
dessert.
Yeah. What's your favorite vacation spot?
Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
That's an interesting. That's
No
our
one said
first.
that one before.
Yeah.
It's a place that I go. Like I have a place in Chicago, and it's a fun little boating community, and just a lot of fun.
Sounds more like a summer vacation, not the winter vacation.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Do you have an adult beverage recommendation? What's your preference?
For beer, I like Allagash White. Love it. It's a Belgian white. Ooh, yum.
Good choice.
For wine, I'm a Sauvignon Blanc New Zealand gal.
Okay. You're very specific.
Yes.
Yes, and otherwise, I'm like a Jack and Diet girl too.
Well, sounds like you're versatile. You're
versatile, yeah.
You're not
I am.
okay. Easy to please there. Last question: if you had one superpower, what would it be?
Oh. Ooh. Okay. Probably. I was going to say read minds, but I don't think I want that. I don't want to know.
Be careful what you ask for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. I had to think about that a little bit too. Yeah, no. I guess fly. I hate flying nowadays. It's I would rather just get there and
If you
maybe
if you could do it yourself and not get on the plane, that would be
yeah,
wonderful.
I think that's probably where I'm at right now.
I was flying this weekend. I would concur with that.
Yeah.
Not a pleasant experience. So, well, you did great, Shelby. If people want to find you and they want to find Bootights, where should they be looking?
Yeah, so find Bootights at bootights.com, and it's spelled BOOTIGHTS.com. So one T in the middle. And we have a full website full of all sorts of, not just tights, but socks and all sorts of fun stuff. And on Instagram, it's Bootights USA, and on Facebook, it's Bootights.
Very good. All right. Well, people should be checking that out. And we always like to end up our podcast by throwing out some other small businesses that people should be checking out. Shelby, you have anything you want to share with our listeners?
I do. I have a favorite small business, and she's a friend of mine, so I'm going to mention it's also in the sock business. It's called Are You Kidding Socks? Okay. And she started this with her kids. So the kids actually create the sock designs, and so they're also aligned with various charities. So a percentage of it goes to charity, and then they'll also design socks for charities. And then they do a sock hop at different schools in the area and raise money for different school districts and different. So it's a really cool company, and they're doing great things.
Oh, cool! That's a great one.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for that one.
Yeah.
Gary, do you have a small business to share this month?
Actually, I have three.
Three
that we've talked about.
All right.
And it happens to be because we're having our real life entrepreneurship forum coming up in that you actually started some years ago that we're continuing. And they're going to be talking to our students about entrepreneurship and the good things, just like we were today. Chase Collins, who was also part of our EEVF, Everyday Entrepreneurship Venture Fund. So these are all entrepreneurship heroes in our local community. Young man, Hickory's helper, and he's doing a lot of great things. He was also on our Skills USA. Now you see all the reasons why I'm talking about him, between entrepreneurship and Skills USA. Okay. So he's going to be one of our speakers. Marky James, who came out of our advertising graphic design program and started Barkside Pet Grooming. And it looks like a long switch from advertising graphic design to pet grooming, but she's put them both to good use, and she's doing very well. Also part of our Skills USA. And then a person you know well, David Williams, one of our former city councilmen, and Plush Cuts, his barbering and hairstyling business. All three are doing well. All three tied closely to CVCC, and so we're very proud.
Oh, good. And
the reason I brought them up is because they're going to be speaking at our campus on March 14th.
All right. So if you're in Hickory and you want to come see three entrepreneurs speaking on March 14th, check that out at Catawba Valley Community College.
Yep. Great. So thank you.
And I'm going to give out a shout out to a company I came across. It's called Life Giving Warmth. Now, Gary, you and I are known outdoorsmen.
Yes, absolutely. We've been outdoors sometimes.
Enjoy camping, fishing, hunting.
Or golf.
What did you kill this season?
My golf clubs.
Your golf clubs? Well, I know you've had a bad back, but you're a hardy guy, and blankets are great if you're going outdoors. You're going to the game. You're going camping, but electric blankets are better, but you don't usually have a place to plug them in.
Yep.
So the company Life Giving Warmth makes a battery-operated heating blanket, and they make different versions of it. They've got one called the Cozy that's more for your going to the ball games, and they've got one that's called the Kodiak, which is more for the camping, more heavier and whatnot. And they've got one that's called Recover that they actually make for EMS organizations to help people in that situation. So seemed like a real cool idea, real cool company. It's called Life Giving Warmth. If you go to lifegivingwarmth.com, you can see what they've got going on there. So it's pretty cool.
That sounds cool. And my definition of camping is going to a hotel and not having a remote.
I know. The Holiday Inn. So anyway.
Exactly.
We Shelby, we really appreciate you joining us this month. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
We hope you find reason to visit the hosiery, the Manufacturing Solution Center when you make it back to North Carolina.
And you'd be very proud to know that your advertising promotions are in the classroom that I was teaching in yesterday.
Oh, really? I might need to update that.
It was great, though.
Bootights.com still works, though. So
exactly.
That's where people can find you.
Still works.
So anyway.
But it was great. And I said, we're going to do this tomorrow. I said, it was really cool for me.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And I wouldn't be here without the Manufacturing Solution Center and all the support down in North Carolina. My manufacturers are down there, and it's like a home away from home. And someday I hope to make it permanent. So then you might see me more often than you like.
No.
Our doors are open, so we welcome you back.
Right.
So we appreciate you joining us today. As always, we appreciate the Mesh Podcast Network for hosting us. And if you go to the mesh.tv, you'll see a whole bunch of cool podcasts going on out there on a variety of topics. So you should check them out at the mesh.tv. And we will look forward to talking with you again next month. Take care.
Take care.